the Afropolitan. And if you happen to be a foreign national working in South Africa or a company that employs foreign nationals, listen closely. This comes after an announcement made by the Department of Home Affairs, which has published its first directive for 2019, aiming to clamp down on foreigners working in the country on a business trip visa. The concern here is that individuals misuse this particular visa to allow for them to actually conduct business by extending the business visa instead of applying for a long-term work visa. Sounds technical, but on the line to help us understand the impact of this new directive, I'm joined by Marisa Jacobs, Director at Xpatweb. Great to have you with us, Marisa. I'd like us to touch on understanding what it is that this directive looks to clarify for us.
Sure. So the directive really centers around short-term work authorization in South Africa under Section 11.2 of the Immigration Act, which is a visa that gives authorization for an employee to work in South Africa for 3 months at a time. So it really highlights two very important points for employers and employees. The first would be those guys who are coming into South Africa on a business visa and in fact conducting work when they only should be doing business. And the second then is the guys who are entering South Africa for a short-term work project, which is for 3 months or less, but then renewing or extending those visas for continuous periods beyond the 6-month period, when in fact they should be requesting long-term work authorization to do so. So those are the two main points that I think are of importance.
Some might feel that this is them still being compliant, but just opting for a particular visa that actually works for them. Where does the intricacy come in here that actually impacts on the legality of those business visas?
So when you're entering for business, you're only allowed to conduct business activities. So that is defined as attending meetings, conferences, workshops, training and events. So if you're doing anything beyond the scope of that, you are conducting work. If that assignment of work is going to be for 3 or 6 months, anything less than 6 months, then you should be getting a short-term work visa, which is this visa under Section 11.2. Simple visa to get, takes only 5 days, and really a great option for guys doing a short-term project.
Marisa, I'll have to jump in. There sounds as though the line is not too clear, but you made it quite clear that the line, the application process takes at least 5 to 7 working days, and anyone working for more than 3 months in South Africa will need to apply for a short-term or rather long-term working visa. Less than 3 months would be a short-term working visa. Marisa, I'm hoping that the line is slightly clearer and that the network does hold up. But what are the consequences then for South Africans or South African entities who employ individuals, bring them in, and have not been complying with the right visa regulations and legal structures?
Sure. I think the consequences are underestimated by employers quite often. In terms of the foreign national working in South Africa, if Home Affairs comes and does an inspection, which happens far more often than guys think, but then the foreign national actually gets arrested on the spot, and not by special treatment, gets arrested, gets put in the back of a police van, taken to a police cell, and often sleeps in prison for at least one night. So very unpleasant. And then from an employer perspective, the line manager or HR professional is also liable for being arrested. So the option is either a hefty fine or arrest, and the offence is arrest without the option of a fine, and is seen as severe as arrest on the offence. So quite hectic consequences.
Hectic consequences, and have we been able to measure the level of compliance in South Africa, just for us to get a real snapshot as to what the activity on the ground actually is?
I mean, we deal with lots of corporates on a daily basis, and the level of non-compliance, just on the back of ignorance, is quite large. I think lots of guys take a chance. They need a guy to come in very urgently. They're not quite sure how to go about it, and they opt for the easy route when in fact the risk is quite high to do that.
Marisa, thank you so much for clarifying. I think we have a much better understanding of the differences between the working permits as well as business visas. In other words, if you're here for a quick conference, meetings that might be scheduled, then a business visa is what you might have to do. However, ongoing and continuous work, which entails you running and leading operations of a profitable organization, will require a work permit in South Africa. However, for further clarity, do be sure to read the Department of Home Affairs website as well as consult with professionals in this particular field to make sure that your businesses are compliant Afropolitans. And if you're a foreign national, also make sure that you play by the books. A big thank you to Marisa Jacobs, Director at Xpatweb.